Hey guys, welcome. Muskie Road Rules Podcast, episode number 218. Guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for telling a friend. You can find us on all the podcast outlets, whether it be Spotify, whether it be iTunes. You can find us on all our social medias at Muskie Hunter Magazine on Instagram. You can also find us on Facebook, as well as Muskie Road Rules on Instagram and Facebook as well, and MuskieRoadRules.com. We've got the new schedule that's going to go up this week. You guys will be able to see all the good the spots we're going to be, and we're actually going to spend a little time in Minnesota this year, guys. We got one worked out. We're going to do one at Thorn Brothers at the store, and we're going to do one at up in the Brainerd area as well. So make sure you check that out, guys, when we get that up and all loaded in. But, guys, tonight's podcast is brought to you by Chaos Tackle. Chaos Tackle, guys, they make so much stuff right now. I mean, they were known with their flagship bait, which was the Medusa, and it's made in a bunch of different sizes, all the way from the micro to up to the monster. And colors, guys, it's endless. They got so many different colors of those baits right now that, if you can imagine it, they can make it. So make sure you check that. And the bait that has really, really came on for them is the Poseidon over the last 4 or 5 years. Poseidon swim bait, whether it be in the 9-inch or the 12-inch variety. Also got the Esox Assault spinners and the Custom X crankbaits, along with the Shum Shum glide baits and the Navin jerk baits and the Big Mama topwaters. These guys got everything. And Ben, what are you doing? Are you digging? It sounds like you're burrowing.
Oh, sorry.
It's in the end. It sounds like a late night. It sounds like a lot of booze moving around. Is what it's. I hear a lot of bottles and a lot of booze. So, and if you're out there muskie fishing enough, that's never a bad thing at the end of the day. Because I've wanted to drink my sorrows away at the end of the day, many times.
Definitely.
But, guys, make sure you check them out, chaostackle.com. I want you guys to check that out. And the big thing, too, is make sure you check out their rods. They got the 2020 and the Assault sticks, big enough to handle the biggest muskie baits out there, up into some great 9.5, 9-foot, 10-foot in length. They also make a few shorter ones than that. So check them out, chaostackle.com. Also, make sure you text us on our text line at 606-776-6570. Again, 606-776-6570. And that's our Lungin Lures text line. Lungin Lures, guys, makers of the 22 short, 22 long, tons of crankbaits. The new ones they've got out right now would be the Alley Cat series of lures, which they're making right now. And you can all find all that stuff at LunginLures.com. And now, the guy that you hear back there rattling the bottles because he just got off the water and he has to drink his sorrows away. Or no, this time of year the water's frozen and he's drinking because he can't go fishing, is big fish specialist from Minnesota, Ben Knutson. Ben, how you doing, buddy?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. Guys, it's going to be just me and Ben talking tonight. Tony is down in Florida, which for guys that listen to the podcast, they know that that's usually just debauchery. And I asked him, I said, are you going to be on tonight? And he just says, it's a late night. I don't think I'm going to make it. So that usually means that I'll be getting a call from a parole officer at some point this evening, and that should be a lot of fun. Won't be the first, and probably won't be the last. So, Ben, buddy, what's going on up there in the Great White North?
Just looking forward to this weekend. That's pretty much it. Bartending a little bit now that guiding season's over.
Yeah, I tell you. How long did you get to fish this year?
I had a newborn daughter. She's 7 months, so the first couple months of the season, I didn't do much fishing at all. I didn't really start guiding until August, September. So
sure,
it wasn't a very long season, but it was good fishing.
Yeah. How did what I was meaning there is when was your last day on the water? Were you able to fish right up to the end, or?
Almost. I mean, I had to cancel. I think I had to cancel like 5 trips actually. I think it was like the last week or week and a half before it got really cold, so I had to cancel a few trips. And then there was one launch open on Mille Lacs. Garrison was open, but the water had gone down so much. I met my client up there. It was just before Thanksgiving, and we tried to launch the boat. I got it off the trailer, and then there's this like another rock wall, and my boat just sat on the rock wall, and I was like, "Yeah, it's not going to happen. I'm not putting my boat in this."
Yeah. Basically, the blowhole pretty much had you couldn't get over top of it. I know all about that. Garrison launch anyway. If there's any type of wind blowing up at it, that's always a fun
Yeah, and then
one.
to put it back on was not going to happen, especially in the dark too. So.
Oh yeah. I remember me and Luke one time launched at. There was a launch beside Miramar. I don't even know if it's still there. But
Miramar. Oh yeah, the one that's really steep.
Oh God, it was horrible. Yeah, this is number 1730 times that Luke tried to kill me. We go to put the boat on, and I mean it's like, oh God, it's November, it's after dark, and the wind's blowing hard from the south, and of course he's like, oh, we can do it, it's no problem. I'm like, I do not have your confidence right now. And we got the boat on, but I mean the whole boat was ice. I mean it was just everything, and it was ice. We didn't have, and this, we didn't have a garage. We had Bic lighters. That's about all we had to try to thaw something out. It was just a disaster. I don't even know if we fished for like 2 days because the boat was. I mean, there was no way you could stand in it. It was hard enough to troll. You could hardly sit down in it. It was so it was so ice covered. But how where do you what's your normal been like your normal like rotation throughout the year in Minnesota? Where do you kind of hang your hat when you're fishing?
Opener, I like to hit Mille Lacs. Maybe stay there a week depending on the water temps and if the fish are still up in the bays. And then I go out to Vermilion, second, third weekend, June, into end of July. And then I head over to like Detroit Lakes and Bemidji area, August, September, and then maybe do some sucker fishing back up in DL, or out west. And then I finish always on Mille Lacs trying to catch that new state record.
that jumbo out there. So I mean, everybody loves to hear about the Mille Lacs stories at the end of the year and stuff. How was it this year? At the end of the year, were you able to get anything real big in the boat?
Yeah, we got a 54 3/4 by 30.
Well, that's a good one. That doesn't suck. Wow, that's a huge fish. That's got to be, I don't even. I'd have to got to do some arithmetic on that one. That's a giant fish. Can you give us now? Did you have much action at all out there? I mean, I know Mille Lacs is the grind, and I applaud you guys for going out there and doing that. That just ain't my thing.
Especially with the low numbers.
It's super low numbers, and it's a lot of it's a lot of banging your head into the wall, and it's one of those deals that Mille Lacs is the epitome of you got to be able to handle the skunk. Because that is she's such an evil bitch. What? It
was this year too.
Oh, was it? So like, the month of November, I mean, how many, did you contact many fish, see many fish?
Yeah, I mean, I think I started like November 3rd or 4th this year. It got really messed up because it got cold and it looked like it'd be great. And then it was like 70 degrees for 3 days. And when I got up there, the water temp was still 48 degrees.
Sure.
So, Cisco's weren't on any rock reefs at all. Once it got down to like the 45 degree temp, then like smaller Cisco's started showing up. But there's really, and then all the first week and a half, it was like windy every day. We had 15 to 20 mile an hour winds. You could cast because it was warm enough. And then when it got later in November, it was so cold that you could only cast for maybe an hour, and you got to heat your stuff back up, or your rods or reels started breaking. So
sure,
we had to do some trolling, but brought the heater out. We drift the spot many times as we could before everything froze up, thaw it out, do some trolling, mix it up a little bit this year.
Sure. I mean, the wind, I'll agree. Out west where I was, the wind, I've always said that, Mille Lacs was Indian for, blow your ass off.
Yeah.
It's one of those places where the wind, and especially, western Minnesota is the same way.
Yeah.
As being out there, it's the frickin' wind. Another thing is I like to say is that people that like fishing the wind have never fished in the wind. Because it's just, I get so tired of it.
Yeah. Especially when it's every day.
Oh yeah, every day, just nonstop. And the other thing too is when it starts blowing, every day it just switches. Well, we're going to blow 30 out of the south today. We're going to blow 30 out of the north tomorrow. Oh, let's go back to the south the next day. Oh, you know what? We're going to go out of the east today. Well, that's good.
And this year we had some rain days too with the big wind. That was awesome.
Oh yeah. No, we definitely had that, and it was just hey, it is what it is. But what did you get many fish out there in November this year? A couple fish,
no,
3, or
we got 2.
Sounds like you got the
one
right one.
The first one I got it in the back. Big wind. I think we were fishing shallower, trying to get on top of the reef there, and I got in the figure 8, which was sick. Never saw the fish. Just was pulling my bait up and got crushed in the figure 8. That was like a mid to upper 40. On a day that it was like, I don't think it's going to happen, but that's Mille Lacs. It can happen at any time.
Sure.
And then the day that we caught the big one, it was like the day that this is going to be the day that we're going to catch one. And we lost one that was probably almost the same size. And I heard of another couple people that lost fish that day as well. It was just like one day out of the whole month of November that the fish actually were trying to eat.
Wow. What was can you give us kind of the situation that day? Why did you think that was going to be a
it's just a calm day. On Mille Lacs in the fall, you want a calm day.
It was the day the wind didn't blow.
Yep, and then the water temps are right. The Cisco's, we're all up on the spots. And it was, it's on Mille Lacs in the fall. I usually don't start my trips till like 9 or 10 because it seems like the best.
I don't either because I'm lazy.
Yeah, that's it. But like the best bite seems to be like 11 to 2, and then at like sunset, and that's when you're gonna get bit. So that the day that we caught that one, I had 2 kids. I think it was like a 13-year-old and a 16-year-old, and their dad came along too. Hadn't done much muskie fishing at all, and I was like, all right, we're trolling. So, and the temp, I think it was like 25. So we were going to get mini casts in, especially with people that are not,
sure,
they're new to throwing big baits in the fall.
Well, so that always surprises me sometimes too. I get into fish with guys and stuff, and they're like, I want to start muskie fishing. Okay. Instead of doing it in like September or August when it's nice out, you know what I want to go? I want to go November 18th. Oh,
yep,
okay.
That was pretty much it. I mean, they told me they had some experience, but then when I was like, all right, so, what kind of experience? Like, we've been out like once or twice. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I watched an in-fisherman video from 1986, and that was that's the extent of my experience.
Yep. So we started trolling, and then my throttle, for like I have a digital throttle, it's stuck. So I'm stuck at 3 miles an hour. I'm just like, man, if we get one, we're not going to be able to stop, but we'll try and make it work.
That's all. Hey, I love making things interesting. I think that is the best way to do it.
So eventually it warmed up enough I was able to go back to the launch to get my heater in case that happened again because I forgot it. And every time I could just heat it up and it thawed out again. But so we were trolling, and was able to get my throttle back so I could. I use Garmin. I finally broke down and bought a live scope, and I threw that in while we were trolling, kind of just scanning, see if we see anything. And I was watching the baits, and on side imaging, I marked fish, and I was like, oh, there's fish. I went back around on it, and then I watched the headlock go right over the fish's face. Like, it was like 2 feet above it, and it didn't do anything. And then I trolled around past it like 3 more times, and the fish never moved. Like, the waypoint was the same. And I was just like, all right, reel those in. We're going to make a cast. And we made one cast at it, and it ate.
Oh, wow.
5 seconds, and then it came off, and I was like, holy shit, that never works. I'm like, dude, you just lost like a 50-pounder, like shit. And so we ended up doing that. We kept trolling. We went back to trolling. And then the same thing kind of happened again at sunset. And I was like, all right, this fish isn't moving. Let's throw a cast on it. And that one stayed pinned, and we got it into the boat. It was pretty freaking crazy. It was like a 16-year-old kid, so he sets the hook, and I'm just like, I grabbed the rod too, and I set it again with him, and I put it over my shoulder. I had like frozen rods up front with the net, and I grabbed the net. The 2 rods almost flew out of the boat. I have the rod on my shoulder, and I'm like, all right, keep reeling, just trying to keep the rod tip up, and we got her in.
Jesus, that's a huge fish, man. So was that an open water fish?
His first muskie. No, we were, I think, in like 21, 22 feet, just off of I was just trolling around the reef edge. It's like kind of stuff that you would cast or maybe just off of it.
Sure. No, I get that. And did you say that was his first muskie?
First muskie ever. I was losing. I'm right. Like, bro, you do not know what this is.
Yeah, no, you just caught the biggest fish in the state this year, or maybe the biggest fish ever in the state, and I mean, I get it, and at some point you're like, oh, it's great, kid got a big fish, but then you're like, there's guys that fish for 30 years and have never seen a fish like that.
Yeah.
They got blood, sweat, and tears, and just to even have a fish like that follow people would be just incredible, and everything. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh, I think I got one. That's that always.
Yeah, when I saw the rod bend over the first time, I was like, oh my god, that should have never worked. And then it happened again, and I was like, oh my god, this is insane. Like, this doesn't happen. Like, you don't get 2 chances at a fish like that usually.
No, not at all. What that fish? If you don't mind, was it on rubber, or what did that fish come on? Yeah,
it was pounder, lemon tail. That's pretty much lemon tail is all I throw. Either double dog with pounder, or sometimes I'll throw paddle tails. But my best color out there is always white and chartreuse.
Yeah, the white and chartreuse pounder, Muskie Innovations stuff. Did you throw the? We had Kurt Hansen on earlier this year, and he was talking about throwing the big, massive swim bait.
The Muskie Innovations one?
Yeah.
Yeah, we threw that a bunch. We didn't have many follows this year. I mean, I had some graph follows and stuff, but nothing too much that came super close to the boat. It's crazy with using that. Usually I use the live scope in like the perspective view, and I use it while we're fishing, while we're casting. And it was crazy this year how many fish stop 15, 10 feet out that you never see.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's just like the case all year long. And it's crazy, like all those side imaging fish that you see that are close to the boat are usually a fish that actually followed you but stopped 15, 20 feet out.
Yeah, no, that's totally it. I've over the last couple of years, I've just noticed so much of that. Even sucker fishing, it's people always say, "Oh, sucker fishing's cheating. They just always bite." I go, "No, they don't always bite.
It's the same
most
thing
of
with
the time they don't bite."
Yeah, it's the same thing with the Garmin. People, there's, everyone's fighting over if it should be legal or whatnot. But I saw a bunch of fish on that. Didn't catch a lot of fish on that this year.
Oh yeah,
You still got to make them eat.
yeah. No, that's totally it. And whatever somebody's feeling is on that, it's whatever. But I have never, when it comes to that, we jig a lot in the South, and
Yep.
the amount of fish that we go by that don't eat is always
insane.
amazing. And but the only thing good about it is I can just, at least when I'm fishing with somebody, I can look at them and go, see.
Yep, exactly. It's super nice when you're guiding and you're just like, they're right there. They're just not eating right
Yeah,
now.
see, exactly. Look, see, I'm not an idiot for this reason, and that's definitely something to look at. How was Vermilion for you this year? We had Luke on, and Luke is always. Luke never says anything bad. He's like a newborn puppy that just like runs around and licks things and humps a turtle. How was Vermilion for you?
I think I was only up there for like a week, maybe 2 weeks this year. I got up there. I think I didn't get there till like around July 4th. And the fish, we caught a couple fish open water, and then we were moving fish up shallow and weeds, and then we caught some on like some rocks. They were kind of in the in between, from moving from open water. It was pretty solid. It seems like the numbers might be starting to come back. A lot of like low 40-inch fish being caught, it sounds like.
Sure. What did you find up there when you were doing your structure fishing? As far as baits and stuff that was working for you, was it big baits or smaller baits? Or because I know one thing for me, it definitely seems like the smaller stuff has been working. With a little bit of speed, seems to be working just as good as the big stuff.
I mean, the open water. I have a friend that lives up there, and he was catching them on a giant swim bait that was 16 inches long from over in Europe, and he was getting them while it hit the water and they would eat. So I was throwing like a big sport yonker paddle tail, and we got a couple on that open water. And then on the rocks this year, this is like before they were really on top of the rocks. It was more fishing sunken rock humps. The Grenade by Muskie Mayhem was lights out.
Really? The Grenade?
Yeah.
It was. Now, were you fishing that shallow, or were you fishing it deeper?
I was fishing it deeper, trying to keep it like on just above the rock reef, so it was down there. I would count it down a little bit.
Okay, so how deep do you think you were getting it down?
Probably 10 feet, maybe 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that bait doesn't have like the thing that I've kind of when you're reeling it in, it really doesn't have a big pull to it.
No, not at all.
It's actually a very easy bait to reel in, and
it's kind of hard to cast sometimes though. But
yeah, I think that's just weight forward baits to begin with. They want to, because the weight being in the front, it wants to lead the line, and the bait will actually fold back against the leader. Is what I've noticed on those. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yep. And just if you're trying to cast into the wind, it's kind of a joke.
Exactly. You just throw it straight up in the air and just let it.
Yep.
Hopefully, it gets in the jet stream and goes out there.
Yep.
No, I definitely I hear you on that. Those baits were. It seemed like the guys that were fishing them were definitely doing good on them, and had some pretty good success. Have you thrown the? Have you done much with like the detonators or triggers?
Yeah, the detonator was. I had a week. They weren't all in the detonator, but I had a week in the Bemidji area. I got 7 over 50, and one was 55.5.
Wow.
And the 55.5 was on a detonator.
Oh wow, that's great. Those baits, I actually really like the detonators, and they just really, for a bait of that size and with the bigger blades, they don't pull as bad as what, like the supermodels.
Oh yeah, like during the day we were burning them and like pumping them.
Yeah. No, they're not near as bad. I was very shocked with them. I caught some in Canada on them this year, reeling them, fairly, during the day, fairly quick out of the back of the boat, and it seemed to. I was just surprised at how easy they were coming in, and I really, really like that. Did you see this year in Minnesota? Did you see a color pattern kind of take over for you this year? As far as like this was just, for some reason this year the pink or red or green or something was good. Was there any kind of special color pattern you noticed?
Not really. I'm more just a black bucktail guy, black topwater. I throw a lot of black. Not really, no.
Any color's good as long as it's black, huh?
Any variation of black is pretty much what I throw. And then, sometimes like full moons and stuff, I'll throw on like a white one.
Sure.
Something brighter. Yep.
I didn't know if there was anything that you had noticed, like a color or something. I know a lot of guys seem to be going to the, that we talked to on here, are going pretty natural.
Yeah. That's mainly that's pretty much what I throw would be natural. I mean, unless you have like a cloudy day, I'll throw some chartreuse and stuff.
Sure. I mean, it's funny because back years ago, 20 years ago on Mille Lacs, it was like, super gaudy crap. Was good. Bright red, pink, chartreuse and orange, really, really gaudy stuff was what those fish would really come in on. But I also think they would have hit a pop can if you would have.
Yeah, that's the thing. So if it's a fish that's going to eat, sometimes it doesn't really matter what you're going to throw at it.
Yeah, and those fish back then were very, very stupid.
Yeah, the first generations.
Which makes things very nice.
Yeah.
But that's the big thing. But now you were talking about, Mille Lacs has the Cisco's and the Cisco spawn. And can you kind of explain that to people, what happens there? Especially because we get people all over the country listening to this, and they don't really know what a Cisco is, or Cisco basically being a shad-like silvery, oily bait fish. But maybe just explain how the spawn works with those.
Yeah, I mean, Cisco, Tulabee, I think like on Mille Lacs, I know they hang out a lot out in open water during the most of the year. But once those water temps hit around 45 to 40, they start pushing up on the rock reefs to do their spawning. And it seemed like this year I noticed like a lot of the smaller ones moved up first, and then the bigger ones. And like the Cisco's and Tulabee and Mille Lacs, I've seen them up to like 18 inches.
Oh yeah, they're
pretty big. And a lot of times once they are up there to spawn, you'll catch a bunch or snag a bunch because they're trying to mate with your bait. And I've seen in years past where we were on top of a reef and you got fish, you got Cisco's following you, got 3-4 following you, they're jumping everywhere. I mean, some guys are like, don't fish where all the Cisco's are, like fish where the Cisco's are lighter. I don't really. It doesn't really matter. I think if there's Cisco's on the spot, there's going to be muskies around there somewhere, but you kind of have to beat them. You have to put your bait in front of that muskie before it eats all these Cisco's too. So it's just even more challenging.
Sure. No, I mean, they definitely school up out there and definitely start coming in. And, they're a fall spawning bait fish, so they're going to definitely be, running up on those rocks. And it happens, yeah. I mean, the big push happens kind of quick.
Super quick. That's like that one day, I think the water temp was perfect. The Cisco's were up there spawning, and it was just, everything, had a calm day. Everything kind of just aligned that day. Sure.
And that's the thing is, I mean, these things will move in and move out pretty fast. And,
yep. And it seems like they really pile up towards the dark.
Oh, yeah.
I think they spawn mostly at night.
Yeah, and you'll start seeing them dimple on the surface and everything. You'll see them come up and pop and stuff. We used to troll a lot at night out there, and it seemed like always that basically that right at dark to midnight was always good. Now we spent some nights out there till 3 or 4 in the morning, and
that
was not much fun. But it was definitely, the fish were, it always seemed like that first couple hours after dark was always the best.
Yep.
Until, unless you had like a severe moonrise, late into the night. But typically with a full moon, the full moon and sunset are always pretty close.
Yep.
The moonrise, moonsets, and stuff are always pretty well correlated with sunset. I think that's why the full moon, that last hour after dark, is always so good on a full moon, because that's when you got all the shit going on in the atmosphere. And you got big light changes and subtle light changes, and I think that's something that actually is the reason why it is a big trigger. What did you hear this year? Any of your buddies catch anything super big? Did you hear any jumbos?
Yeah, my buddy Donnie Mance, I think he got like a 50 and 55 and a half.
Wow.
Up in his neck of the woods too this year.
Who was that?
Donnie Mance.
Oh yeah, Joe Dirt. I like to call him Joe
Muskie
Dirt.
Mayhem. Yeah, I think he caught that earlier in the year too.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, why don't here? It's funny because everybody thinks of giant fish in the fall, and
then you caught a bunch with Casper.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He, I let him catch one, so it was it was good. I think he just likes my bulldog because I send him videos of him playing with himself. He's quite the talented dog. The thing is that guys talk about big fish in the fall all the time. And that's always what it's, traditionally that's been the whole deal, that, the fish in the fall, they are fat. I mean, I will say, the fall fish, unless you're in the South like I am, where we get to fish pre-spawn fish in the spring, the fattest fish in most of muskie country is right now in the fall. But lengthwise, really long fish, there's some giant fish that get caught in June up there. And a lot of those fish, I mean, hell, the release record was caught in June this year out of Mille Lacs, 58 and a quarter.
It was like the second weekend or something.
Yeah. And there's always in Mille Lacs, you hear about them over the years. And a lot of these lakes up there, you see it. I mean, it seems like, guys get a little frustrated with the late, the late springs. But it seems like some of those springs are the best ones for those bigger fish shallow, because I think it holds them up there a little bit, right?
Yep. That's what, when I fish Mille Lacs for opener, you want the late spring, and then you have more chance at a 50 class inch fish still being in the base. The last couple of years, it seems like once opener hit, a lot of those fish had moved out, and you had a chance at some nice fish. But a lot of the fish I heard caught this year were biggest was 48. So I think those bigger fish move out first.
Sure.
And you have to kind of go find them out in open water or at the mouth of the bay and stuff.
Yeah, and the fish that you're going after in June there, those are the fish that they're still up shallow, right? I mean, you're targeting them in a couple, 3 feet of water, right?
Yeah, I mean, anything from 8 feet or less. You can find some green cabbage, usually just burning small bucktails, maybe working a glider, some topwater action maybe.
Sure. And that's the thing that I think people, it's a misconception that spring can't be a really good time to get a nice fish, especially on these colder springs. How was it this year for you?
Yeah, like I said, it was a little warmer. I think I bagged one in the first couple hours, a 48. But a lot of the fish that we saw were all the 40-inch to mid 40-inch fish. It seemed like all the big ones had moved out. But like you said, if you have the late spring, one of my biggest fish was opener. It was a 56 and a quarter, 2019, I think. So and there was a bunch of fish over 50 inches caught that year.
Sure.
And that was kind of a full moon, everything aligned, late spring. The fish were just, it's crazy. In the spring too, up there, you're oh dang, there's a lot of fish in this lake. But then when you go and fish it in the fall, you're where are the fish?
Yeah, there are not many in here. I mean, the springtime definitely, I think, herds those fish together because they are in the spawning bays. And yeah, oh no, I definitely, I've definitely seen that. Does anybody still on Mille Lacs, do you ever hear of that sand bite going anymore?
No, no.
There's
all
the
I hear
simple
is, like,
answer
guys,
is no.
no. I know some guys that are casting some weeds out there throughout the year. Most of the guys I heard are just, they troll out in the abyss, flats or whatever. And
that's funny
they
because
troll for
that
weeks
was,
and they catch one or two, maybe,
yeah, that makes me laugh because that was never something that we even did.
I think because of the pressure too, the fish have started to get smarter, and most of the big fish just stay out in open water.
I think that's got something to do with it, but I think there's always been fish out there.
Yeah.
But I mean, for us back when we were doing it, it was, you just see them everywhere up in the sand. I mean, you just drive through there and be like, oh, there's one, there's two, look at that one, and it was just and they would bite. But this again, I mean, this is back when there was no high speed reels. I mean, a high speed reel was a 6500, and it just kill you. And I mean, and speed is so relative. Back then when we'd say burning bucktails, I mean that was with a Luna or a TE or nothing fast. Nothing fast at all.
Like moderate speed.
Yeah, like moderate speed, but we were huffing and puffing and trying to do it. And it's
throwing those tens.
And then when the cowgirl came out, I was just like, oh my God, this sucks. Trying to do it with that. But I remember the first super bottle, Brad, and I don't even know if he still got it, or hell, if I still got it. But the first one they made,
wasn't it like a pink one or something?
It was pink and gold.
Yeah,
it was the first one they ever made, and we caught a fish at night. It was like a 43 incher on it. I remember throwing it, going, "Well, this is awful," because it was, and that was back before they had the blades they have now. These were like true Colorado blades. I mean, this motherfucker looked like a, beaver coming at you, and but that's what we used to have to deal with. But no, I was just curious. I mean, with the springs and stuff like that, and have you noticed that on other lakes too up there the last couple of years, like with the late springs, buddies and maybe talking to buddies and stuff? Have they seen the bigger fish showing up shallow like that in the spring?
Yes and no. I mean, I feel like a lot of the guys stick to the open water bite now. They just go straight to trolling open water looking for fish.
Sure. I get that. But it seems like to me on a late spring, the open water bite,
if you got a late spring,
it don't kick in till July 1st or end of June.
I think the last couple of years it's been a little warmer, and we've had the later start to the year. I think it's like the 6th or something instead of the June 1st.
Sure. Yeah, that's I can totally see that with the warmer springs and stuff, getting those fish to go. But any on those baits and stuff that you're using, what's been your best summer bait for you the last few years? Just for guys that are getting into it and they're looking to maybe try after some bigger fish. What's been some of your best summer baits?
Muskie Frenzy 8 and 9 has been one of my go-to bucktails. I also throw the Muskie Mayhem stuff, the trigger, the 7-9 trigger. And then for like rubber, I like the double dog, the magnum size double dogs, or like Husky Deuces. Like you said, I like to throw more natural colors and stuff. I think the Muskie, or was it Chaos, came out with the bass color again. That one's always been really good for me. But yeah, like natural walleye sucker patterns, that's kind of my go-to. And then for bucktails, anything black or variation of black in there, different colors, little chartreuse or little orange in there.
Sure. Have you been throwing any single-bladed bucktails at all?
really, I will like on Verm when they're up on the rocks and you're just burning stuff. Any small, tiny bucket. I think Muskie Safari came out. I got to test one out. Like a client brought it with me like 2 years ago, and it's called I think they called it the jackhammer. It has like a special clevis on there that it's a one-bladed bait, and it clicks. The clevis clicks. It's crazy. But yeah, once they move to the rocks, I think like second, kind of depends on water temps, but usually it's like second weekend of July. And until like the end of July, you can just burn a bucktail as fast as you can, and that's what I'm throwing. The smaller stuff, the 8.8 musky frenzies, or sometimes the one-bladed. I think they call them the 8s now. I don't know what they're 6s. They changed the size on me. I think.
I don't think the blade. I don't think the blade size changes. I just think the number changes.
Yeah, the number changed. Yeah,
because I've seen that.
I feel like
before.
they used to be called 6s, but now I think they're 8s.
Exactly.
Like the showgirl size.
And it depends on the company they buy them from, because this company it's an 8, well this company it's a 7, and this company they don't even want to have them. So it's I know what you're talking about. It sucks that some of that stuff is just it makes my head hurt. I just got a big box of blades and skirts, and I just kind of make stuff up as I go. So that's always been my thing here. But Ben, how can somebody get a hold of you if they want to go fishing with you?
Best thing to do is message through Facebook or Instagram, or text me at 651-238-9530.
What's your Instagram?
Instagram is at Minnesota Angling. And then my Facebook's just my name, Benjamin Knutson.
All right. Well, that's pretty cool, man. Well, here at the end, I wanted to, before we get off here, let's talk a little bit about Muskie Innovations. You can find them at muskieinnovations.com. You can hear Ben talking a lot about the bulldogs. This guy's caught a ton of big fish on the pounders. He's talking about the double dogs, too. Why do you like the double dogs?
I like more than one tail. So
well, don't most people. I mean, that is a rule to live by. So
better to it.
It doesn't. The one thing I've noticed about the double dogs, especially with guys, if they're having trouble keeping the bait out of the weeds, it seems like it rides higher in the water.
Yep. Then you can fish them in like that, the good 8-foot to 10-foot cabbage. Usually the Medusas run it a little too deep, so that's when I switch over to the double dog.
Yeah, the double dogs there. And guys, you can find a ton of stuff by Muskie Innovations. Also the makers of the Ultra Dog. They got so many dogs, it's ridiculous. And all the swim baits now. Again, the swim baits are a huge part of muskie fishing. When they've got the swimming dog, whether it be the regular or the shallow or even the ultra swimming dog. The makers of also the Dying Dog jerk baits have done really well. And the shallow invaders. Just a ton of nice baits, bunch of different colors. I'm sure they're going to have a lot of custom show colors coming up at muskieinnovations.com. And guys, again, don't forget to text us on the Lunge and Lures text line, 606-776-67. No, that's my phone number. 606-776-6570. You should not drink and podcast, folks. That's what we're learning tonight. But guys, Ben, thanks for coming on here with us.
Thanks for having me, Greg.
I'm gonna let you go. Why don't you shoot me a picture of that big old fish so I can put it up on the Instagram? Okay.
Will do.
All right, buddy. Text me that. You take care, and guys, we'll see you next week.